Black artists making history now. From the moguls and changemakers
Don't do something until you're inspired.
to entertainers living their truth.
We should center Black lives in this conversation.
I'm Melicia Johnson, and joining me in a discussion on the stars setting the bar for excellence, MTV News anchor Dometi Pongo.
Hold up, I'm building businesses. Y'all gotta wait. I love Riri.
Journalist and host of Black Girl Podcast, Gia Peppers.
Tyler is opening up the dream and the space to all of us.
And from Netflix's Okay, Now Listen, Sylvia Obell.
It's so important for us to be the authors of our own stories.
I think it's only right for us to kick things off with Bad Girl Riri, Robin Rihanna Fenty, who went from singing Ponder Replay in 2005, which was my jam, to being the world's richest female musician. Now, Gia, this woman is an empire. It's music, it's fashion, it's beauty. How do you think Rihanna has managed to rise to this level of success?
I think Rihanna is the master of not only the pivot, but being absolutely everything she wants to be whenever she wants to be it. Rihanna has changed the game literally in beauty, in fashion, in music. She gave us 8 studio albums over a decade. Then she gave us LVMH, being the first Black woman to have a fashion house with them with Fenty luxury line. Now Fenty Beauty is changing the game, and literally Fenty makeup made other makeup brands make other shades for Black women and women of color all over the place. So for me, Rihanna understands that when she wants to show up, she's going to show up in so much excellence that everyone else has to see her as a formidable businesswoman, a star, whatever she wants to be. And you always want to be her friend. So like, she's just perfect.
Part of the key to Rihanna's magic is that she always keeps her ear to the street. Like, she knows what her fans want and need from her. She knows what Black women are lacking in the marketplace. And like, I'm wearing Savage, Fenty, all right now in this one sitting. So it's like she really gets the need for what we're looking for.
For sure,
And even
for
though
sure.
she has her finger on like the pulse of what her audience wants, she doesn't let them lead her too far. She remains singularly focused. While fans are begging her for an album, she's like, hold
Right.
up, I'm building businesses. Y'all gotta wait. I love Riri for that.
We can't talk about moguls without mentioning Tyler Perry.
He knows how to listen to his base. He's been able to tap into his market, and he doesn't forget where he came from. And that allows him to create the next generation of leaders, even with the stage and the studio that he's opened. So I think, a lot of folks who criticize him have to look at the larger picture and everything he's doing in totality, because it really is a business case study.
I also think we don't say enough how Tyler Perry really stood in the gap while Hollywood was still catching up. When we think of the roles he gave to Taraji, Kimberly Elise, Gabrielle Union, when they weren't able to get work that helped them catapult themselves back into mainstream, that's an important thing that Tyler has done. We also wouldn't have Black Panther without his studio and a lot of other shows we love. So those are very important.
Yeah.
He built the table.
Absolutely. He understood his power, his path, and his purpose, and he shares it and gives it back to Hollywood. Tyler is opening up the dream and the space to all of us. And shoot, I'm trying to film something, Tyler. Let me know. I'm going to be there.
Look, we have to move on, though, to some Black entertainers and creators who are boldly living in their truth and at the same time inspiring others to do the same. When I think of that, I think of Janet Mock. She directs, she produces, and writes for the FX series Pose. And she made history in 2019 when she landed an overall deal with Netflix. Sylvia, can you talk about the significance of her getting a deal like this?
Oh, you mean my good coworker, Jenna Mock? That's what I do anytime somebody gets a job at Netflix. I'm like, oh, hey, sis. But no, Jenna Mock made history. She literally made history. She's the first Black trans woman to have an overall deal with any major studio. And that is a testament to her talent and her hustle. Because honestly, she was breaking barriers with Pose before it was popular, before it was trendy. And I really think we need to give Janet her just due for that. And I'm very excited to see what other shows she creates, because I think even in this quarantine, with the absence of Pose, we're realizing how big of a gap there is for queer storylines on television. And I'm really excited to see Janet fill that through her Netflix deal, but also hopefully it opened the door for more trans and queer voices and writers and entertainers to do the same.
Since we're talking about Pose, we have to talk about Billy Porter. He is a force on and off the red carpet, by the way. But he made history for his Emmy win for the FX series in 2019. Dometi, what do you think are some of the necessary conversations he sparked just by showing up as himself in the industry?
Well, he always starts the conversation with what he has on. So his fashion makes a statement before he enters the room. But what I love about Billy Porter is that in this moment, he's found a way to remind us that he is more than just those shows, more than just a singer, more than just an actor, more than just a playwright. I mean, this man has done so much for the industry, and you're starting to see the influence of these LGBTQ creators, not only in shows like Pose or Drag Race or even our own Logo Live, but when you see shows like P Valley that have these other storylines that offshoot into very important issues within that community. And I think that's thanks to folks like Janet Mock and Billy Porter.
Yeah, for sure. And he's also been vocal about his experience with homophobia in the Black community. And he
Yeah.
hasn't shied away from calling the Black community out about that. But Gia, I want to move on to someone that you're super passionate about, Lena Waithe. In 2017, Lena made history when she won an Emmy for writing a Masters of None episode about her coming out experience. In what ways do you think Lena is changing the game, Gia?
There are so many ways, and I think the most I think controversial way she changed the game is when she put out Queen and Slim. She didn't take any notes from any studios, right? She put it out with her vision in mind, and I think what we saw was someone that is true to the vision and also a product of what hard work really looks like. She worked her way up in every single opportunity and took over and decided to show up and show out, not only as a queer woman but as a woman who's of color. She thinks about Black women in all over the spectrum, and we see it in her shows from The Shy to 20s on BET, which is literally about her story and her coming of age in LA as a Hollywood writer and then director, producer, creative, right? And so the reason why I'm so passionate about her is because she actually literally continues to look back and opens the door. I could email her and she will respond, and I'm like, "You're Lena Waithe." Like, that's really crazy.
Finally, I want to talk about Black artists speaking truth to power. In 2018, Kendrick Lamar became the first rapper in history to win a Pulitzer Prize for his album Damn, which examines social issues and the Black experience in America today. Dometi, what do you think this win did for hip hop?
First of all, it puts hip hop in the conversation with previous Pulitzer Prize winners like Gwendolyn Brooks, Alex Haley, who wrote Roots and the autobiography of Malcolm X. And it really reminds people what hip hop is at its core. It's prose, it's literary consciousness, it's the voice of the unheard. It literally means, rap literally stands for rhythm and poetry. And why I'm so excited about it is I actually think the stronger album was To Pimp a Butterfly, the one that came out before Damn. And so the power in it is that now we go back through his archives, where in that album, he pays homage to Tupac. So now it's going to lead people down the rabbit hole of looking at hip hop, looking at rap within the annals of history as something that's akin to what Langston wrote, what Maya wrote. I mean, Kendrick, Tupac, these writers are right on par with them. And I think that an honor like this cements that. That's why I'm so excited about it. I mean, even last thing on that, even with the protest songs, the songs that became the voice of the movement, like All Right. If you were out in the streets covering these protests or marching, the energy was palpable when these songs were sang, when protesters would shout out these lyrics. Back when they used to sing, change is gonna come and we shall overcome, he became those new Negro spirituals. And so it's a befitting honor for sure.
Rappers are storytellers, and these critiques of America belong up in the ranks of academia, just like anybody else's.
All right, well, let's move on to Ava DuVernay. Her work has made her the highest grossing Black female director in American box office history. Sylvia, what impact has her filming had on educating people on systemic racism and police brutality?
Ava really puts the heart into these stories and into these narratives that we often read about. Instead of Black men being a statistic, we get to see when they see us and really see them. That's why I love the title of that. Even with Queen Sugar and the 13th documentary, she's putting names, faces, and families and heart and soul into this issue with America that makes it so hard to ignore. And it's very there's a difference between reading about the Central Park Five and watching each boy get ripped apart at the precinct the way you do. I was a mess by part 5. And I think that's why it's so important for us to be the authors of our own stories, because we will put the heart into it because it was our experience. And Ava really shows the difference there.
Last but not least, Jordan Peele. He made history in 2018 by becoming the first Black writer to win Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars for Get Out. Gia, tell us about your initial reaction when you first saw the film, and what did you think the public was going to think about it?
I was scared to go back to the suburbs where my parents lived. I'm not going to hold you. I was like, just in case I make the wrong left turn, I am a little afraid. But no, I think what Jordan Peele brings to horror, which we're seeing, like we saw how well Get Out did, and then Us did. Now we're seeing Candyman come back, and we're seeing all these new movies that feature the Black millennial version of horror, right? Which I think is so inspiring. But Get Out was that first time where we saw something that is really not that out of scope. Like it wasn't a fantastical movie. That could really be happening. You can literally drug people and hypnotize them and make them crazy. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's why Jordan is so good at bringing those stories to life.
Daniel Kaluuya's skin was glowing in that movie. In the same way. In the same way that Lena Waithe had dark skin glowing in Queen and Slim, like Gia Peppers so eloquently pointed out. So not only the content, but how it shot, the cinematography, and how Black directors are able to look at melanated people and make us pop on camera the way we should in ways that other directors don't always do.
Yeah. Well, speaking of skin glowing, I must say we all look good with this melanin popping on the screen right now. So thank you all for joining me. This was so fun. This was a great conversation. And we're going to keep this conversation going about artists speaking truth to power. Our very own Tondo Glomo has more on the makers behind the movements, the celebrities who are using their platforms to take a stand.